Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Craig Swan. Swanee, how's it going?
Yeah, okay, Daniel, how's yourself?
I'm very good, thanks. A lot of people last night were asking, where's Keith Jackson again? He was on his holidays last week, and this week he's away in Scotland duty. Sorry for some.
Busy boy, busy boy.
We will actually catch up with Keith and Scott McDermott a little bit later in the show. I caught up with them earlier on their travels. I thought it was good to have you on, Swanee, because it's important to get your take on the fallout from deadline day. It was a massive... I mean, it was dramatic in many ways for Celtic, but not in the good way.
Yeah, quite the cliffhanger. Quite the cliffhanger for waiting for the next episode. Unfortunately, the window was closed for the next episode. That didn't happen for Celtic. Very strange, very strange. And then moves into the free agent market with Kelechi Iheanacho. I mean, listen, Celtic fans are disgruntled, would be underplaying it. Absolutely furious.
What do you think of Iheanacho as a signing? Obviously, they've announced him today, a deal on till the end of this season and potentially next. I mean, he's only 28,
yeah,
right? But his signs of his career don't look great. I mean, I've got a family that are really big Middlesbrough fans. They go to every game home and away. And on Monday night, I said to them, and they were like, without being unkind, he was a figure of fun. Like he used to get ironically jeered when he come on and go off in that. So, and again, if Rodgers really wanted him, he wouldn't be going after him on the 2nd of September.
Utter desperation and just plugging a gap somewhere. But that's not the player's fault. So if you're just talking about the player, slowly, we know what he did previously in his career when he was making his way up. Very impressive. Obviously, did good things for Brendan Rodgers at Leicester. This is going to come down to the famous Brendan Rodgers gets a hold of players and improves them. Because this is clearly a lad who's lost his confidence. He's not scored goals in his past two clubs. He needs to get him back fit, firing, sharp. But that's what Brendan Rodgers has been good at in the past. So he's going to have to get him back to what he was at Leicester time. Because obviously the vibes that we're getting from the time in Spain and at Middlesbrough are not good. So that version of Kelechi Iheanacho, no good. The one that was at Leicester could be, because listen, Celtic are desperately lacking pace in the forward areas, and he's quick. So, you know, if they can get him up to speed, but listen, there's a lot of pieces to fit into that jigsaw. Daniel, you get no idea at this stage if the two wide players are going to be any good. There's a lot of pressure on them as £5 million signings. I think I made a point on the Celtic podcast the other day that Adam Idah was judged on a transfer fee that Celtic really needed to have paid. If they'd have done it earlier, comes back to the transfer business again. But they ended up dragged right to the end of the window or whatever, quite a long way on. Celtic had to pay $9 million. So Idah was judged as a $9 million striker, and he's not worth $9 million, and that was hammered upon him.
Yeah.
If Celtic had got Adam Idah for $5 million and he scored 20 goals last season, people went, great bit of business.
Aye.
Now these two wingers have come in at £5 million each. We don't know if they're really £2.5-3 million players. We don't know that. It's impossible to gauge the market. People will turn around to me and go, well, Matt O'Reilly was only 1.4 million. He was a brilliant player and he X and Y and Z. I know you can't just judge players on transfer fees. My point is the pressure on them to deliver is higher because it's £10 million for the two of them. They're going to have to hit the ground running and be good.
The other thing, Swanee, today from a Celtic perspective is that the Green Brigade and 101 other Celtic fan groups have got together and put out a statement, and I'll just read a bit now. It basically just says, fans have repeatedly demanded positive engagement and repeatedly been ignored. The time for silence is over. So they're obviously demanding transparency from the Celtic board, demanding, more explanation and actions. I mean, do you think they're likely to get it?
No, probably not.
Me too.
I would imagine if it does happen, if it were to happen, it would come in the form of some sort of statement or maybe something through the club website. That's not what the fans want. The fans want journalists directly asking them questions. I think the fans actually want to be asking them questions themselves, but that's probably unlikely to happen. Someone has to say something. This can't be at the door of Brendan Rodgers. Major football clubs have sporting directors or CEOs who speak. Sometimes too much in certain cases. But a lot of them, when there's certain incidents around the club or something big's happening, it's not the manager's responsibility. We've seen it through the years. Celtic managers maybe having to deal with other things they have to talk about where really the club should deal with. A senior figure at the club could deal with something. This is one that a senior figure at the club has to deal with. Because it's not Brendan Rodgers that's in charge of getting deals done. Clearly, it's him and his recruitment team identify players. There's a reason why the players weren't signed. Nobody knows what it is.
No.
So if it was the players were too expensive that were wanted, or this or that, or what, people just want to know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think after what's happened, Celtic can stay in silence with this one, the hierarchy. I don't think they can.
No chance.
Or they shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't, aye. Look, if you're watching at home and you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so. Let us know what you think of your club's activity in the transfer window, and we'll try and read out your comments. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I did catch up with Keith Jackson and Scott McDermott earlier on today on their travels and Scotland duty. They were talking a lot about Celtic as well, so it's probably the best time for us to check in with that, and let's see what they had to say. Joined on the hotline live now by Scott McDermott and Keith Jackson, off on their travels.
Back together again.
Wish I could draw a big love heart round you.
The romance is back on.
He's off on Scotland duty.
Yeah, we're at Edinburgh Airport just now, Dan, flying into Copenhagen, and you know things are starting to pick up. Although I have to tell you, we're on the trip. By Friday night, when Scotland kick off, it is the start of a World Cup qualification campaign. It's a condensed campaign. It will become intense. It will become people's focus. But right now, where we stand right now at this point on, what are we, Wednesday? The focus is still back to me, isn't it? It's in the rear view mirrors. What happened at the transfer deadline day? What's happened subsequently? The noise, the mood music, everything. We know that the focus is domestic, Dan. We're flying away from the story.
Well, we had a deadline day aftermath special on the Hotline Live yesterday, and it was a great show. But obviously, I need to get your guys' take on, first of all, Celtic signing Kelechi Iheanacho. If you'd said to Celtic fans a month ago that'd be happening, they wouldn't have believed you.
It's desperation, Daniel. Look, we spoke about it the other night on deadline night. Celtic were scrambling about at the last minute, trying to pick up any bargain they could. Look at the free transfer market, the loan market, losing guys to other clubs. It was a shambolic end to the window for them. And see, when you see Iheanacho's name mentioned, without being disrespectful, you almost kind of laughed because you thought, nah, they're not going to do that. I mean, that's just so obvious. I mean, that's just like phoning the guy that Brendan Rodgers worked with before because he's the only guy left. He's just been released with Sevilla. Now, that's nothing against Iheanacho. A few years ago, he was a really good player. His career has gone a bit awry, I would say, in the last couple of years. But look, it's lastminute.com, and the Celtic fans are quite rightly livid at the moment.
The one thing I would say about it is, Daniel, you've got to remember, Kelechi Iheanacho is only 28.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're picking up somebody the wrong side of 30 who's just there for a pension. If he's got anything about him, and he was a £20 million Manchester City striker, let's bear that in mind as well. So if there's anything there, if there's anything left over, if there's anything inside Iheanacho that wants to kickstart his career, Celtic might accidentally win a watch here. I'm sure that Brendan Rodgers' influence has been part of it. But I'm also convinced, one, he's hardly kicked the ball. Two, if he was looking like reinventing himself, he wouldn't be getting his contract terminated with a year to go. And three, you've still got an issue here with Brendan Rodgers, who's a Celtic manager in a really difficult situation, reduced to signing free transfers at the end of a transfer window after selling a £10 million striker in January, a £17 million winger at the start of the window, and then a £7 million striker. £9 million striker in Adam Iheanacho, who's become a £6 million striker. That's where the issue is, and I wonder where Brendan Rodgers' head is at right now. I actually wonder. I wonder if he's going to have to take 1 or 2 days to. He won't do anything knee-jerk. I think he might take 1 or 2 days to process this, because I think this could very possibly. This isn't just a board that's let him down. I think there's an element of betrayal now to this, and that's a difficult one for Brendan Rodgers to have to swallow.
Yeah, if you'd have said to Brendan Rodgers in January when Kyogo left, look, don't worry about it. No, in the summer, on the last day of the window, we'll get Kelechi Iheanacho in a free transfer. I think you would have accepted that? Absolutely.
No chance.
And as Jacko says, the real problem here for Celtic is it's not just the transfers, it's not just the state of the window they've had. It's the fact that Brendan Rodgers came out at the weekend and said we can't sell Adam Iheanacho unless we've got a ready-made replacement.
There was almost an element of over my dead body.
Exactly.
And it happened with no replacement, and even then the replacement, and as I say, look, the proof will be in the pudding. We actually might prove to be a really astute signing for him if he finds top form, but Brendan Rodgers wouldn't have swapped Adam Iheanacho for Kelechi Iheanacho a week ago, so he's not going to accept it just now.
We were inundated last night, guys, with people saying a combination of, do you think Rodgers will walk and Rodgers should walk? I mean, do you think that is at all realistic?
I think, as I said, Daniel, I think knowing Brendan Rodgers, there will be no knee-jerk reaction to this. I think he'll be a bit bruised, and I do think he might take a couple of days just to get his head around exactly the events of the last, 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it's been, but certainly culminating in what happened at the end of the transfer window. Brendan Rodgers has pledged to the Celtic supporters that he wouldn't leave them early this time around, that he will stay for his 3 years. I just wonder if the ground shifted or has shifted in the last few days. I also wonder, and I'm pretty sure that Brendan Rodgers will be aware of this, that by and large, although he's not in the clear exactly, by and large the Celtic support are on his side in this argument.
Yeah.
So if Brendan Rodgers was to say, I'm sorry, I just can't work under these conditions, I find this intolerable, I think the groundswell of public opinion would be on his side.
Without doubt.
I do think there are decisions to be made. I really do. I'm not over-egging the pudding here, Daniel. I think that this has been so badly mismanaged that it does feel a little bit like decisions will have to get taken before Brendan Rodgers can say, right, okay, I'm good, I'll go again, I'll commit for the rest of this season. I think what we can say, absolute certainty at this point, is this will be the last season. If indeed he does hang around to see it out.
We were just saying, Daniel, in the taxi through, it's just a pity in a sense that it is the international week, because you imagine Brendan Rodgers' press conference for the game this weekend.
Talk about box office.
Oh,
it'd be brilliant.
But now, as Jack will say, he's going to have time, sit back, reflect, speak to the board, decide what his kind of next move is, decide what his next kind of public address is going to look like. So it's probably good from Celtic's point of view that that's happening, but from our point of view, it would have been brilliant to hear what Brendan Rodgers had to say, just in terms of what's happened in the last 24, 40 years.
And just very briefly, guys, I've only got a minute or two left with you, but Rangers, no excuse for Russell Martin now. Spent a lot of money. This is his own team.
Well, I don't think there's been any excuses. I just think it's been a botched job by Russell Martin since the start, and I don't think anybody should be surprised by that, because there was no lack of warnings. People suggesting that this was unlikely to be a comfortable fit for either party. It's not turned out to be. It's been quite the opposite. Probably been a lot worse than even the sceptics amongst us thought it might be. But I see with interest when we got into Edinburgh Airport today that Kevin Thelwell, the sport director, has felt obliged to do a question and answer with the club's own internal media. That tells you something, Daniel. That tells you that he's starting to feel the heat, and rightly so, because he can't be given a free pass on any of this. He was heading up the recruitment process along with Greta Steinson. He has put his name to every single signing that's walked through the door and photobombed them in Auchenhowie with every statement he's quoted in it. He needs to take responsibility. You wonder if Andrew Kavanagh is putting heat on him, and his reaction to that is to put heat on Russell Martin and say, you better get the finger in.
To me, Daniel, what it tells you is that, see, this notion of Russell Martin and the new team needs time. Of course they need a wee bit of time, but there's got to be a breaking point within that.
Yeah.
We're now into 4 league games, no wins, out the Champions League. Massive game against Hearts coming up next at Ibrox after the break, then Hibs in the League Cup after that. It's big pressure now, and Kevin Thelwell will be feeling it, Russell Martin will be feeling it, despite his that kind of public persona. And as I say, you get time, but in Glasgow there's always a breaking point. And to me, that Thelwell interview tells you, as Jackal says, he's feeling it a wee bit. These signings have to deliver, and they have to deliver quick.
Guys, absolute pleasure as always having you on. Safe travels. Hope everything goes well. And we'll catch up about Scotland, I'm sure, tomorrow.
Listen, we'll probably see you when we check into the hotel.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
In the comments, Swanee Big Rab says, couldn't them two find a quiet room at the pub? Listen, everyone watching, we tried 4 different spots in Edinburgh Airport, and believe it or not, that was the quietest. So we did the best we could. We've got plenty of comments, Swanee, on the Celtic situation that I need to read out. Let me throw a few of them at you. Mark says, if Rodgers is the man he purports to be, he would roast the board on the way out. If he doesn't have the decency to walk, he should be sacked. This one from, let me have a look. Robert says, Iheanacho, 86 goals in 322 games. Defenders will be having sleepless nights about facing him. Absolutely shocking signing. Knowing Celtic, Bamford will be in next. Stephen Mulhern writes in saying, despite Brendan Rodgers talking up the signing, I'm not convinced he's an upgrade on either. Indeed, Iheanacho's career seems to be on a downward spiral. A better option would have been going in for Jamie Vardy, offering a similar one-year contract, which would have suited both parties. There's a couple of Celtic fans, though, that are refusing to panic. Brendan here says, we're the snowflake generation. There's nothing wrong with the Celtic squad. And Big Rab again says, Kelechi was a Celtic target in January. I mean, Jamie Vardy, I think, Swanee, would have been, in my opinion, a better signing. And he's 10 years older than Iheanacho.
Yeah, again, it comes back to what Iheanacho turns up.
Aye.
But yeah, I mean, I think you knew with Vardy, you would have known with Vardy you were definitely going to get it because he was still doing it last season.
Aye, exactly. That's a good point.
So there wasn't the big drop-off
that
there's been in Iheanacho's case. It's just interesting listening to the lads talking about Brendan Rodgers and the kind of standpoint of fans. Somebody said something to me today, which I thought was quite interesting. He said, Brendan Rodgers looked bad in the eyes of the Celtic fans when he left the first time. He'll look worse this time if he doesn't go.
That's a good point, aye. That's a very good point.
Because he'll be seen as actually allowing the board to do this to him. Now, I'm not saying that speaks for every Celtic fan. Of course it doesn't. But just something somebody said to me today that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah. No, that's a very good...
think of it that way, but...
Aye. What do you think, Swanee? I mean, obviously, we're still only a couple of days after transfer deadline day. He might be collecting his thoughts, Brendan Rodgers. But do you think it's a potential situation that he could resign, could walk away?
Well, he says no, but you have to bear in mind what Keith said is right. That I think everybody thought that at some stage the window would come good. Even in the last week, it wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be perfect. It would still have been a shambles, and Celtic would still have had plenty to answer for. But there would have been some emergency stuff done in the final day that would have been enough to appease. I just don't see. I think Scott made a great point about the Adam Ida statements that Brendan Rodgers made at Ibrox. That's just blatantly gone against what he said.
Just cut his legs off. Aye.
Unless you're classing Kelechi Iheanacho as the replacement, which I don't think anybody really hand on heart is. And in terms of, what was said by Brendan Rodgers on the press release, I mean, what's he going to say?
Aye, what can he say?
Press releases come out, what are they going to say? Yeah, I didn't really fancy him, but he'll do.
Aye.
I mean, of course it's going to be talked up. That's just what happens.
He's not going to come out and say this was the absolute last resort, the only guy we could get. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So I never pay any attention. I never pay any attention to what managers say when new signings come in the door. What they're going to say.
Aye.
So no.
In the comments again, G-Master asks us what we think about Chermiti to Iheanacho. I think it obviously means comparing them. And that brings us on to Rangers. Swanee, Keith Jackson mentioned it there a little moment ago. A Q&A with Kevin Thelwell today. He pointedly just said that Russell Martin needs to do better and quickly. And with an £8 million striker, I guess the pressure will be on even more so now on Martin after the international break.
I do love how football clubs work. We're all talking about Celtic hierarchy, not speaking when all the flack's going on. You never really heard anything from up above, another nightmare of Bruges, but all of a sudden money's spent on the window and people want to speak out. It's like, but yeah, what the boys were saying was absolutely right. I mean, it's a very simple tree as such. You know, if you consider that, you know, Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart were instrumental and were giving the backing to appoint Russell Martin, well, basically Russell Martin's got to deliver for Kevin Thelwell, and Kevin Thelwell's got to deliver for the board, and a lot of them have got to deliver for the fans. So it's a chain of events, and Kevin Thelwell has made it clear that, you know, the money that's been spent and the players that have been provided, and it's now up to Russell Martin, his appointment, to make it work.
See as well, Sonny, I mean, this, I should mention, like David in the comments says, come on the Jambos. Obviously, we know Hearts have made a great start. I mean, Hearts are already 6 points of the Rangers, but Aberdeen as well. Like, when I saw Aberdeen, I mean, just last night, signing Stuart Armstrong on a 2-year deal. I know he's 33 now, but he's been a brilliant player throughout his career. Yeah. And of course, Jesper Karlsson, who 2 years ago was a €12 million signing for Bologna. I mean, to get both those bits of business and Kevin Nisbet for a knockdown price, that's seriously good going for Aberdeen.
Yeah. Within the package of those players, you have international experience, you've got quality, you've got experience of the league, you've got everything in there, which is what you would want from three signings. And for Aberdeen to get these boys was a tremendous end to the window. To be fair, the club said right at the outset when the Scottish Cup was won and the European money was guaranteed that they were going to back Jimmy Tilleen, and they have done so. Listen, Aberdeen needed a shot in the arm. It's been a dreadful start to the season, in fairness.
Yeah.
And they needed something. But maybe this is like this international break. Okay, it's been a nightmare start for them, but this international break will just allow them to turn the page and kick on again. And hopefully improve for their sake, hopefully improve their fortunes. But no, three excellent signings. And listen, I don't know whether it's been the promise of with the restructuring of the European competitions. And I may have to be corrected here. I'm not sure how it will work for next season in terms of as a team guaranteed to get. I think we spoke about it the other night. Even if you don't want to play off, the teams have been able to parachute into the Conference League, and still get the sort of £5-6 million. I'm not sure if that's still in place.
I think next season, I think it is, but then 2 seasons from now it changes.
Well, certainly, you look at the outlay at Hibs, spending £1 million on strikers. You look at the incomings at Hearts, Aberdeen. There's a bit of money flying around, and clearly, this is one of the reasons why. Because if you could get in there and start to, I can remember. I can't remember if it was Robbie Nielsen or Stephen Naismith that spoke about it at Hearts, but you get in there once and you're not going to use that money. You're not going to catch Celtic and Rangers with 1 year, but what you do is you use the money to establish yourself as the third best. Then you get the money again, and that then gives you the opportunity to get closer.
Yeah.
Well, it should also give you a team to ensure that you can get through the qualifying rounds the next, and you keep building and building and building. And none of the teams have been able to do it yet. None of them that have got in have all suffered a hangover the next year and struggled, and it's cost a few managers their jobs, in fairness.
Yeah.
Struggling in the group stages the following season when they get in, because it's very difficult to keep squads running, and that would be another big part of the signings made by Aberdeen. They're going to have to juggle both domestic and European football through the season, and you're going to need a lot of bodies, and you're going to need a lot of numbers. But it's not just numbers for the sake of numbers. That's the encouraging thing if you're an Aberdeen fan. That's quality that's been brought in there. Stuart Armstrong's obviously reaching a later stage of his career, but what a player he was. He is, I should I made it sound like he was tired. A cracking player with all sorts of brilliant experience, So he'll still have plenty in the tank.
Rebel in the comments points out that Fletcher Boyd, who was a very promising Aberdeen player, he moved from Aberdeen to Aston Villa for £1 million yesterday, but still an amazing window, or into the window for Aberdeen, I would say.
That's been spoken about a lot, hasn't it? About some of our young talents going away, and it happens. And we've seen it happen at Aberdeen before with some of the talent, Ryan Fraser and like that leaving. So as long as I've been properly compensated, of course, you like the boy, but as long as the money's good, then that's fine.
G asks, who do we think will come second and third? Look, I know we've talked about this a million times over the years, Swanee, but can anyone mount a serious title challenge? Can anyone disrupt the old firm? Look, if it was going to be any season, you would think this is as good as any. And you look around Europe at clubs that have staged massive shocks. There's almost every league in Europe since the turn of the century. I mean, Leicester in England, AZ Alkmaar in Holland, Montpellier in France, Stuttgart in Germany. There's been so many. Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium. Every league, there's been at least one season where it's been a massive shock. It's just kind of, I mean, Scotland's got to have a year like that sometime, no?
It can't even be considered until February before you can even talk about it, because I heard it all before. I remember sitting on Hotline Live a year ago, and everybody tell me I was an idiot for saying that. I still didn't ask me about Aberdeen after 20 games, not 10, and I was getting slaughtered. And look what happened. It's very difficult to keep it going right the way through Christmas, because remember, the way the season's structured, you play a good chunk of your games before the new year. I think you've maybe played by the end of, I think it's maybe 21, 22 games. If I've got that right, I might have that wrong. So you can
No, I think you're right.
Beat me up if you want. Certainly used to be it was weighted to the first half of the season, and then it thinned out a wee bit with Scottish Cup and European and international breaks and things like that. If a team's up there at the end of January, ask me again.
Yeah, that's
because listen, look, you can see a scenario where nothing gets better for Russell Martin because the signs so far are not great. They're already 6 points behind Hearts. 6 points behind Celtic, 6 points behind Hearts. So if that doesn't improve, but you think it probably will, you look at Celtic, and if Iheanacho doesn't work out, and Dyson Maeda does a hamstring and he's out for 10 weeks, who is going to score a goal? So Celtic start dropping points all over the place. That could happen.
Absolutely.
But I would rather wait until I'm gonna have splinters on the couch. If a Hearts are, if everybody, Hearts is the one that everyone's talking to. I think you can forget Aberdeen already. You don't give Celtic a 10-point start. That's already gone for them.
Yeah.
But I think most people are concentrated on Hibs and Hearts when they're talking about it, and probably mainly Hearts because of Tony Bloom's statements and his big talk.
I remember Swanee. It's
going to be very difficult for them to go. I remember the brilliant team they had under George Burley, and they started for 8-9 games or something on the top of the league. But
he won them all, didn't they?
Weren't able to sustain it.
I remember Swanee last year it was Halloween. You were at Pittodrie, and we did a Hotline Live late at night, and it was the night that Aberdeen beat Rangers, and they went 9 points clear. Mm-hmm. And I remember everyone in the comments saying, "Well, that's it. Aberdeen have finished second. That's it. If they don't finish second, it's an absolute nightmare." And look what happened to them. So I mean, that's the best bit.
I was a lone voice.
No, that's the best bit of evidence.
I was a lone voice. I'm just loads of people said it, but yeah.
But no, to be 9 points ahead then, and against the Rangers team that was really struggling, and look where they finished. So I think it's a really good point.
The one thing I would say is, I really, really hope one of them do.
That'd be brilliant, Brilliant for the
league. It would just be fabulous for the league. I mean, listen, we've been kind of crying out for a proper title race, for a good run of title races for a while. It obviously was one a couple of years ago, when Rangers were in pole position and fumbled it away, and Celtic came back and won it. But for the majority of other ones, it's been a bit of a landslide for Celtic. But it'd be great if just another team could get in there. But it's asking a lot. It's asking a lot.
No.
But some of the squads look good. I mean, the Hearts squad looks good, and they're adding good players. And Hibs have had another cracking window, and they're doing great. But there's been a relentless nature to Celtic. There's literally no margin for error for other teams, not even Rangers. You can't get away with slipping up here and there. Celtic just keep piling it on.
Yeah.
But it's up to them now with this catastrophic transfer window and how it's been left. Because I think I said on one of the shows, whether it was a record podcast or whatever, Celtic Podcast, whatever it was, they're going to have to keep going to the well with the same players now. Maida, Callum McGregor. Okay, maybe defensively they've probably got cover, but these key players, you keep asking them to play Sunday, Thursday, midweek, Saturday. Chances are one of them will break down. And if both of them break down, you've got a problem, and it's then up to the other boys to step up. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it all shakes down in the next few months.
Definitely. In the comments, actually, sorry, Swanee, just to go back to Rangers for 1 second. Scott says Rangers won't win anything with Russell Martin. Luke says Kevin Thelwell needs to realise Rangers isn't Everton, where mid-table is success. And Mark points out Hearts v Rangers will be looked back on with hindsight as the most important game of the season. And just to mention Chermiti again and going into that, I mean, I agree with Mark. I think that could be an absolutely huge game at Ibrox. Thelwell and Martin, I guess, must think this boy is something pretty special to pay £8 million when he could have had the likes of Cherny, Abdullah Sima, goodness knows who else, to go 8 million on him after he scored 0 goals in 22 games at Everton. It is massively putting your neck on the line.
Yeah, and they obviously see something in him. They obviously believe in him and think he's got the talent. And the one thing that Rangers have to be applauded for with this is they've backed their manager. They've gone and got their manager a striker that they wanted.
Yeah, you're right.
Would have loved that to have happened. And we're just going to need to wait and see. I mean, listen, I've already heard the opinion both ways. For a lot of people doubting what you said, Daniel. Why that outlay? Why that outlay? He's not proven yet. But they obviously feel that there's talent to be developed in there. And if you're starting to sign that level of player, this goes back to the Ange Postecoglou Celtic thing, doesn't it? And the model. Instead of buying 3 million players and selling them at 10, buy one at 8 and sell them at 20.
Exactly.
Maybe they look at this boy, not maybe. They obviously look at this boy Chermiti and think that's what they can do because they're going to be paying the money if they don't fancy him.
Exactly.
So, but again, as we talked about Kevin Thelwell and Russell Martin, he has to go and deliver. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And what a big game it will be for him to start with as well.
Aye, absolutely.
Coming back, I think as the caller mentioned, that's a momentous game.
Aye. Massive.
To come back to a massive game. You think of the implications for Russell Martin, win, lose or draw. You think of the implications for Hearts can go and win that game. A shot of belief that gives them.
Massive.
I mean, it really does tell them, okie doke, maybe. But they would need to keep it going. But, if you can go and take, Hearts have taken points off Celtic Rangers before, and it's not stopped them. From not, they haven't been able to get close to them in the league. I mean, they've still been able to do it in one-off games, but I just mean at this time, with all the stuff that came out from Tony Blue and the excitement around Derek McInnes and the squad building, that's been a good time to go get it. Wouldn't have been the time to go and lose 3-0 to a Rangers team that's been on its backside basically since the season started. That immediately just pops the balloon and just says, okay, status quo again. So, it's like, it's going to be a huge game. It's going to be a brilliant game. But
I'm with you. I honestly can't wait for that game. I think it's going to be great. But obviously, we've got another, 2 weeks or week and a half, 10 days before it's back because we're international duty. And I don't want to go too in depth with it to finish the show. But obviously, Scotland play Denmark on Friday night. And all I can say, Swan, is we need to get to a World Cup. Yeah. Please let us get to a World Cup. I mean, 1998, I mean, it's beyond laughable. It's beyond depressing. It's just soul destroying that we haven't been at a World Cup since 98.
I know. And it's a matter of image what we spoke about last week. When I was on, we'll talk about our teams in Europe, not doing well. Right. I think, what was it you said? We're absolutely obsessed with football in this country. Why aren't we better?
Exactly.
Speech. As Keith says, this is, and I think I said last week at the squad announcement, this is quick fire, this is rapid, and there's no time to really recover from a big setback. They're going to have to start well. And you don't want to say defeat in Denmark is the one they could get away with, because that's technically your biggest rival for qualification. And if you were to then, as happened in the last campaign, Scotland then reversed it and beat them at Hampden. So if you get equal points with Denmark, then you would think that's not bad. But to get anything out of that game would be a brilliant start. You're immediately one against the head there if you can get anything out of that game. But that'll be really difficult. That'll be really difficult. We know what the atmosphere's like there. The Danes are notoriously a good team. And then, if Scotland are to do it, then go and build on it against Belarus. If they can get 4 points, it'd be a good start. But like I say, it's so fast, it's so rapid fire. If they come back for this trip with 1 point, you're almost looking at it thinking, it's done already.
Aye, I know, you're right.
I mean, that boat.
Rebel says in the comments, Dolberg's going to score a hat-trick on Friday. Oh, the irony. Rebel, don't even tempt fate. Really don't, because that already has the feeling of peak Scottish football, that happening.
I was there the last game when Scotland played in the Parkin, early in the last campaign. I think it was the last World Cup. Scotland. I'm sure it was just after COVID. Scotland only had about 15 or 16 fit outfield players. I think Andy Robertson played it right back. It was a crazy night. Scotland were 2 down after about 15 minutes. And it was
I remember me 2 down.
Yeah, it was really bad. So we do not. There's not good memories there for Steve Clark and some of the squad. So hopefully they can rectify that on Friday and get us off to a flying start. That'd be great.
We've got Denmark away on Friday, and then we've got Belarus away on Monday, and then the next meet-up is in October. We play Greece at home and Belarus at home. I guess in many ways, he's saying this is maybe the hardest game away from home first.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just get out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's I think sometimes be the best time to get it. Early in the season, there's a lot going on with players. A lot of players will be moving about. I mean, you just mentioned Dolberg. He's just moving. I know it's a club that he knows. He's gone back to Ajax, but he's moving and uprooting, and there's things going on. And you look at Isak with Sweden, and these other stuff that's been going on with him, and then he's back. So there's a lot goes on. And things. Actually, Steve Clark actually referenced it at his squad announcement. What day is this? 9 days ago. 9 days ago, when he basically said it can sometimes be a difficult squad this week because there's guys moving and you guys are maybe getting transfers and you don't know, on deadline day they could be moving the day before they come to join your squad and things like that. So it can be a tricky squad to put together. So if this would be a good time to get Denmark, I would say.
Aye. I hope
you're right. A good time to get them.
Mark in the comments, just to finish, says it's as strong a squad as Scotland have had in ages, but the keeper and striker give me the fear. Look, I know we're going to talk about it ad nauseum a million times between now and the end of the year, but look, just generally, do you fancy our chances of getting out of that group and making it to America, Mexico, and Canada?
Let's say yes.
let's be positive.
Of enthusiasm, because if it goes wrong, I'll be able to be doom laden for plenty of time afterwards. But listen, it's going to be difficult. The last 27 years tell you it's going to be difficult, and Denmark are going to be formidable. We saw what the Greeks can do when we faced them recently. You only need to look at Solis's performance against Rangers for Bruges to realise the sort of talent that they've got at their disposal. So it is not going to be easy. Scotland are going to have to really perform well to get this done. And hand on heart, it might be tough.
Maybe tough, but let's keep it positive. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Like I said last week for the clubs, let it be our time.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, look how that went.
That's
a cry that fell on deaf ears. We actually called it, didn't we, about Hibs?
Aye, did.
Remember we talked about a team losing Partizan Belgrade scoring in the 228th minute of normal time, and then it happened again to Hibs. You could have cried for them, to be honest.
I know.
That's just so Scottish. That's what happens. We never do that.
Aye.
Never do that.
If Denmark do that to us on Friday, it will break my heart. So Denmark, if you're watching, just give us a break. Yeah.
Roll over and give us a turn, will we?
Exactly. On that note, I think that brings us to the end of Wednesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. As ever, thank you so much for all the comments. We really appreciate it. We'll be back to do it all again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. when I imagine the topic of conversation will be Scotland again. For for now, Swanee, it's always a pleasure having you join me.
Thanks, Daniel. Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching at home. Hope you can join us tomorrow. Cheers.